Hello, in this video I'm going to show you some more about how to create trees in the TreeCrafter iPad application. So when you first start, you normally see this tree initially, and this menu here is the menu that is used to edit the shape of the tree. It scrolls up, there's a lot of entries on it going down to the water bottom. But basically, what you need to know is there's actually two kinds of tree. The one that I'm currently showing right now is actually called a rational tree, and it's because it relates to the properties of rational numbers. And the other tree, this one, it's called a geometric tree. Because its branching properties relate to sequences of geometric relations. So you don't need to worry about the math because it's all just about playing around with the controls to see what you get. So I want to start with this rational tree. The first thing that's worth checking out is that, well, apart from the fact that you can just use your fingers to kind of change the appearance like this and twist to create some interesting bending effects of the tree. The first thing that's really worth playing around with is this branching node number section here. So the first one is intervals. If you increase this, it actually adds more or reduces the number of branches on the tree. And then the complexity number, that actually reduces or increases the additional branches between the intervals that you actually just selected up here. Now, it's not really necessary to totally understand exactly what's going on, but it just produces different kinds of effects with different combinations of these two numbers. So you can see that this has various different kind of effects. Now, some of the other options, one of them is the angle mode, and there's a whole range of angle modes, and they just it just corresponds to the way in which the branches can sprout out from the main trunk. So when I put it in this first one here, all the branches come out pretty much at the same angle. So you can create something which is very simple and straight like this, because every branch always has the same angle pattern. And then this one, it actually allows the branches to kind of diverge from the bottom to the top of the tree. That also has its own characteristic. And then this one has the opposite effect. In this one, the branches converge towards the top of the tree. And in the last one, the branches have like a sort of a mixture of converging and diverging, which is worth also playing around with. Going on down the list, the next one is the spread, which really just controls how narrow or wide that tree is. And that's also a control that you can just use with your fingers. The next one is the bend, which kind of causes it to tilt one way or the other and kind of wraps the leaves up into curls, as it were. They get more and more curly, makes it more like a fern pattern. All these are fairly easy to exactly get back to the straight position. And then the balance is really the left to right kind of swing of the tree, like this. We've just covered the branching patterns. Detail just shows how many leaves, how detailed that drawing becomes. So you can actually make it simpler or more complex depending on what you want to use it for. There is, of course, a limit to how complex it can get. The next one's kind of an exciting parameter to play with because it can create like a huge change in the appearance of the tree. This is the growth factor, which kind of causes it to explode out in size. So you can see some of the differences that are produced there. The results are quite mesmerizing often. and quite interesting just to play around continuously with these things. And then symmetry kind of it shrinks or grows like one side or the other of the tree to allow you to change this kind of symmetric balance. Aspect ratio stretches and expands it in this kind of direction. And then the next set relate to the trunk. So this allows you to kind of like create a big fat tree where the trunk is nice and wide. Or make it really tiny just so it's even just really thin lines. And if we look at the taper, that actually is how much it goes down from like from the thickness to kind of like get smaller from bottom from the root to the tip, and allows you to kind of play around with that to create some interesting effects. So the next thing to look at is the apex. So this sets like the tops of all the branches, and right now it's on this last mode, which is a fractal kind of end. But if I switch it to this one, all the ends turn into spikes. You can see how they've now turned into spikes compared to this one, which creates a fractal. It makes a mini tree on the end of the lines. If I just turn up the taper a little bit, so I reduce the taper so that it has more of a flat end, you can see that these just end at flat points. But the other modes allow it to be rounded off in this manner, or to actually have like a broken look, which kind of like creates a more bizarre kind of broken off end on each one of these spikes. So the next one that we have is like the length. So you can actually take the length way down or make it really long. So it makes the tree more or less spiky. And the last set of controls that you get are actually controls that allow you to randomize some of the settings of the tree. So now you've got everything is fairly even, but you can actually add in deviations to the straightness, for example, or deviations to the straightness of the branches. If I just reduce it a little bit, you might see that slightly more. Actually, I'll just I'll make the end fractal again because it makes it a little bit more interesting. Okay, so if I do this, you can see how like the tree actually gets a little bit of wiggle. And actually, when you have set one of these, for example, the wiggle, you can hit this bottom button, which is refresh, and that will actually regenerate that wiggle over and over again to give you a different kind of effect. If you take it back down to 0, you can get rid of it. And the next one so I'll leave it up a little bit. And the next one is the random angles. So this allows you to kind of totally change all the angles of the branches. And this is also random. So when I actually hit this button, I will get I'll get a different random angle every single time. So I'll take that one down to 0. The next one randomizes the length. So now you can have like some really bizarre pattern like this with very uneven tree branch lengths. And once again, the refresh button will create like an extremely different tree each time, basically just because it's changing this random length pattern. And then finally, this one changes the intervals, which is basically the points on the branches where each new sprout comes out. So and then once again, you can hit refresh. Now, every time you hit refresh, it's basically applying every single one of these different random parameters over and over again. So you can really get some quite intense patterns by using this kind of approach. So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to leave it at that point, and I hope you can try some of these things out for yourself.